Hello everyone, my name is Cristel Morales, your first reporter for Group 8, and I'm going to discuss the first part of our report in Chapter 8 entitled Strategy in Global Environment. So basically this lecture is all about how companies expand internationally, and this chapter discusses the various ways in which international expansion can increase a company's profitability and profit growth. Also, we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of different strategies that companies can pursue to gain a competitive advantage in the global market. So, global environment refers to the interrelationships and transactions among cultures, people, and organizations worldwide. And as a result of international business and other global trends, today's global environment has become a complex set of interdependent networks. So now we are in present times, mapapansin naman natin na huge global markets for goods and services have been created, and companies from different nations are entering each other's home market. So, ibig sabihin, mas dumadami yung customers, mas malawak yung locations ng productions na pwedeng pagsuplayan, pwedeng pagbentahan, and now, managers need to consider how globalization is impacting the environment in which their company competes and what strategies na dapat i-adapt to exploit the unfolding opportunities nga sa global environment. So in this chapter, the global environment, ito yung magsisilbing playground ng mga multinational companies, ng mga other businesses when expanding their business, their companies internationally. Now, let's proceed to the second slide, the globalization of production and markets. So, sa globalization, yung companies or yung mga multinational companies, they took advantage to the lower barriers in international trade. So, yung effect of globalization, more countries are open nga, and therefore, more countries are allow their businesses to expand to new countries, to expand into new locations, and therefore be able to actually expand their operations and productions. So, for example, today's generation, kahit nasa Pilipinas ka, pwede kang makabili ng products or mag-avail ng services outside the Philippines, like sa US, sa Canada, and many more. And that's how globalization works in the market. So, habang tumataas yung globalization, in order for the multinational companies or other companies can reach new markets and customers, tumataas rin yung national competition or yung rivalry. So, parang nagiging eksena is naging mandatory na yung pag-i-improve ng competitive advantage. So, yung mga national differences, bawat countries, they can use that in order to create or for the productions ng products and services na pwede nilang i-offer sa global market, and also malaman kung gaano sila ka-unique and for their business expansion strategies with the goal of profit growth. Now, let's proceed to the national competitive advantage. So, the countries has the main four characteristics that make it unique. So, four things that make it competitive, and those four things are factor endowment, local demand conditions, related and supporting industry, lastly, the firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. So, basically, ito yung four conditions which point out the competitive position of a specific country. So, now let's start with the factor of endowment. So, it is about a nation's position in factors of production such as skilled labor or the infrastructure necessary to compete in a given industry. So, for example, si company nagpo-produce ng mga marble for housing corporations. Therefore, they need to be located at country na mas mataas yung production ng marbles. Or, for example, si country is need ng mga magagaling na researchers when it comes to technology innovation. So, need nilang maghanap ng mga countries kung saan mataas yung rate ng mga employees na magagaling sa research development. So, second is the local demand conditions. So, this basically means that there will be enough customers in that country to support the business. So, divide the risk. Don't try to put all your investments in one basket. So, hindi dapat magre-rely lang sa customers from other countries. Dapat may mga local demands pa rin. So, the third one is, it is about the presence or absence in a nation of supplier industries. Like if you open your business in that country, you can find the necessary suppliers that you need to support your business. And finally, port, firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. So here we talk about the conditions in the nation governing how companies is created, organized, and managed, and also the nature of domestic rivalry. Now let's proceed to my last topic, the ways in increasing profitability and profit growth through global expansion. First is expanding the market, leveraging products. It is important to note that the success of many multinational companies is based not just on the goods or services that they sell in foreign nations, but also upon the distinctive competencies or unique skills that underlie the production and marketing of those goods or services. Next is realizing cost economies from global volume. It shows that the company can realize cost savings from economies of scale, thereby boosting profitability by expanding its sales volume through international expansion. Such scale economies come from several sources. Next is realizing location economies. It shows that the economic benefits that arise from performing a value creation activity in an optimal location. And lastly is the leveraging the skills of global subsidiaries. It shows that the managers must realize that valuable skills can arise anywhere within a firm's global market. So these are the conditions in order to increase the profitability and profit growth of a multinational companies around the global market. That should be all for my report. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Madeline Espico, and today we're going to discuss cost pressures and pressures for local responsiveness as well as choosing global strategy. In a global setting where market competition is high, companies tend to deal with two kinds of pressure, and that is cost pressure and pressure for local responsiveness. These two types of pressure place conflicting demands in the company. Ano bang ibig sabihin nitong dalawa? From the title itself, cost pressure, meaning industries are being pushed to minimize their unit cost. At ang isang paraan doon is mag-produce sila ng products kung saan mababa ang production cost such as labor and materials while aiming to produce goods for the global market. Dahil dito, na-achieve nila na mapababa yung expenses while still being able to make profit. On the other hand, kapag naman sinabi natin pressure from local responsiveness, kinakailangan nilang mag-respond sa mga demands and preferences of their market. While doing this, they are trying to produce or to do customization. And we all know that customization raises costs. These two are considered conflicting situation for businesses as they tend to adjust to both pressures. As you can see in the illustration, Company A faces high pressure for cost reduction while low pressure on local responsiveness. Company B is its vice versa, and Company C faces both high pressure. Given the situation, we can see that it is a conflicting challenge that businesses must address or to come up with strategic ways to address this challenge. In the global economy, international businesses often face pressure in cost reduction. In order for them to address this, they may make various ways. One example is that manufacturers may mass produce a standardized product at an optimal location to achieve economies of scale, or also known unit costs will decrease as the output expand. There are ways on how these businesses can reduce its costs, and one of them is used by many computer industries wherein they hire workers from countries with lower rates like India because they can pay them less. In addition, they can use the strategy of Walmart wherein they ask their suppliers to lower their prices. With that, their suppliers move to places with lower production costs such as China where it's cheaper to make things. Another pressure that the global market is trying to surpass is in terms of local responsiveness. In the first part of my report, I mentioned that this type of pressure businesses tend to address matters that arise from differences in consumer tastes and preferences, infrastructure and traditional practices, distribution channels, and host government demands. But first, let us talk about the first bullet, which entitled Consumer Tastes and Preferences. Different markets and countries also have different tastes in terms of a specific product depending on their need or benefit that a product will give. That is why it is one of the most important consideration in terms of local responsiveness. An example of this is when the automobile industries moved toward the world cars, wherein different brands such as General Motors, Ford, and Toyota agreed to sell standard motors globally that came from centralized production However, it failed because they needed to cater the demand of different people from various countries. The second bullet discusses the differences in infrastructure and traditional practices. Differences in infrastructure or customs between countries can create a need to adjust products. Companies might need to let their foreign branches handle manufacturing to customize products. For instance, driving practices vary. British people drive on the left, so they need cars with the steering wheel on the right, while in Europe, it's the opposite. Even in wireless technology, different standards in different regions means companies must tailor their products accordingly. Third bullet is the differences in distribution channels. Different countries have different marketing strategies to deliver their products to their people. In being responsive to local pressure, they need to deal with differences in distribution channels or deliveries. An example of this is the approach of the United Kingdom or British and Japan in the pharmaceutical industry is different from the system of the United States. With that, different approaches should be applied on various channels. Lastly is the host government demands, wherein differences in policies, testing, and procedure in a product is different in various settings. A policy imposed on goods and services provided by an industry in the Philippines is different from the approach being used by the United Kingdom. Last topic is about choosing a global strategy. Given the need to balance the cost and differentiation of the products offered in the global market, firms tend to be affected in choosing a proper strategic posture for their businesses. But what is a global strategy? Global strategy is a concrete plan of a business in order for them to expand in the global market. There are four main strategic postures that companies typically choose from are a global standardization strategy, a localization strategy, a transnational strategy, and an international strategy. So first strategy is the global standardization strategy. This type of strategy is being used by companies who are aiming to increase profitability by reducing costs. In this type of strategy, companies tend to produce standardized products worldwide rather than customizing it for a single market. In this way, they can minimize their costs and maximize efficiency. This type of strategy is effective when there is a strong pressure to reduce costs but low pressure on local responsiveness. By using this strategy, they can enjoy the benefit of economies of scale at the same time maximize their expenses. There are businesses that use this kind of strategy, and one of them is Motorola and Intel. And one is localization strategy. This type of strategy is used by companies who are focused on customizing the goods and services they produce based on the differences of their market. Unlike global standardization strategy, this type of strategy is used when there is a low pressure on cost reduction and high demand for local responsiveness. One of the downsides of using this type of strategy is that they may impose higher costs on the products they sell since the production of those finished goods is also high. An example of a company that used this strategy is MTV. It is an American cable television channel wherein it customizes its programming to match the demand of its viewer. If MTV failed to do this, they may lose their market as well as not be able to increase its profitability. And lastly for my report is the transnational strategy. This type of strategy happens when company faces both strong pressure on cost reduction and strong pressure on local responsiveness. In achieving both cost reduction and standardization of its product, transnational strategy is being used. This strategy is conflicting since it is aiming both to achieve economies of scale and location economies. Companies such as 3M and ABB, a Swiss-based multinational engineering conglomerate, have tried to embrace a transnational strategy and have found it difficult to implement in practice. On the other hand, Caterpillar, a heavy equipment manufacturer, faced cost pressure from competitors like Komatsu and had to be responsive to local demands due to variation in construction practices and government regulation. To address cost pressures, Caterpillar redesigned its product using many identical components and invested in large-scale component manufacturing facilities. This approach enabled Caterpillar to benefit from global manufacturing while addressing pressure for local responsiveness by differentiating its product among national markets. By pursuing this strategy in the 1980s, Caterpillar doubled output per employee and significantly reduced its overall cost structures by the 2000s. Meanwhile, Komatsu and Hitachi, which followed a Japan-centric global strategy, saw their cost advantages disappear and have been losing market share to Caterpillar.
Good day everyone, I'm Michelle Angela Genovesa and I'll be discussing the remaining topics for this chapter. So, an international strategy means that a company is selling its product in different countries around the world. So, yung mga product na kanilang binabenta is something that people everywhere need or want. So, this could be something like food, clothing, or mostly it is in the form of technology. Now, the cool thing about these strategies is that they don't have many companies that are competing with them. in all places where they sell their product. Since they are pretty much the only ones selling what they have, then they don't feel the need to lower their prices or cut their costs too much in order for them to compete. So they can keep their prices stable, and they are focusing on providing great product services with their customers. So an example of this is Xerox. They are known for its office technology. So they have enjoyed a period of dominance without competitors. Essentially, they are holding a monopoly. So due to the widespread of demand for their products across the developed nations, then Xerox could sell its standardized offerings globally at a premium prices. So without urgency to cut down its expenses due to the lack of direct competition. So Microsoft is another good example of a company that has pursued a similar strategy. So we all know that for many years, Microsoft dominated the market for computer operating systems with its Windows software, which gives them a virtual monopoly. Then as a result of this strategy, Microsoft was able to sell their software globally without facing significant competition, which allowed them to maintain a high prices and profit margin. To the point of international strategies that eventually other companies will start competing. So if the managers don't act early to make their company's costs lower, then they might find themselves overtaken quickly by the other companies that are better at managing costs on a global scale. So this is exactly happened to Xerox company, which they face a tough competition from a Japanese company such as Canon, who made cheaper and more efficient photocopying machines. So Xerox lost its market share because they didn't cut their costs early enough. So this shows that sticking to just an international strategy might not work for long term. So other companies might need to switch to a global standardization or transnational strategy before the competitors will catch up. So as you can see in the figure, localization strategy means that they are focusing on adopting its products or services to a specific local market need. So maaaring magbigay ito ng advantage when it comes to their competitors. Pero kung may matindi naman silang competition within their competitors, then kailangan nilang bawasan yung kanilang cost sa kanilang product. So the best way to do that is by switching to a transnational strategies where yung mga company, they operate globally, but they are still pays attention to the local needs. So as competitor emerge, international and localization strategy become less viable or less effective. And they are now prompting to shift towards global standardization or transnational strategies. When a company wants to start selling their products or services in another country, then they need to figure out the best way to do that. So there are 5 primary choices of entry mode. First is exporting. It is when a company sells its products or services to customers in another country. So it has 2 distinct advantages. First is exporting saves money because the company doesn't have to set up factories in different countries. And second, it can benefit from making products in one place and selling them all over the world. Just like how Sony came to dominate the global television market and Samsung gained share in the market for computer memory chips and become success globally. So for the drawbacks of exporting, first is it might not be the best choice if it is cheaper to make the product in another country. Second, high transportation costs can also make exporting expensive, especially for the heavy or bulky items. Second is international licensing. So it is when a company in another country buys the right to make and sell a product from different company for a fee that they are agree on. So one of the advantage of licensing is that it lets a company sell their products in another country without spending money or taking risks to start a business. So it is a great choice for the companies with limited funds to expand overseas. Of course, there are drawbacks of licensing. First is the company doesn't have full control over how its product is made and sold abroad, which make it hard to benefit from efficiencies and strategies across different countries. Second is when they are competing globally, a company might need to coordinate its actions between countries to stay competitive. And lastly, if there's a risk of losing control over the important technology by licensing it to foreign companies, Then, to reduce this risk of licensing technology, yung mga company can make cross-licensing agreements where they can both share their valuable knowledge, which means if one company breaks the agreement by using the knowledge to compete, then the other can do the same. So these agreements will help them to trust each other more and, of course, reduce the chances of one taking advantage of the other. So a good example of a licensing agreement is when Walt Disney allows McDonald's to use the Disney trademark characters on their Happy Meal boxes. Third is franchising. It is when a company lets other people open and run their own businesses using the company's name, brand name, and way of doing specifically their operations. So McDonald's is a good example of a company that has grown by letting other people to open their own McDonald's restaurants called franchises. So they have strict rules about how these restaurants should run, including the menu, how the food is cooked, who should they hire, and even where the restaurant is located. And they also help the franchises with their supplies, training, and money. So the advantages of franchising is like licensing. It saves the franchisor from spending money and taking risks to expand into new markets, as the franchisee handles these expenses and risks. So therefore, franchising allows a service companies to rapidly establish a global presence without high development costs. So one disadvantage of franchising is maintaining a quality control, because as poor quality in one location can harm the company's reputation globally. So this challenge is compounded by the geographical distance and a large number of franchisees, which making hard to detect and address the quality issues effectively, that potentially leading to a persistent problem. So to address these issues, the company can establish a subsidiaries in each country or region where they are expanding into. So it can be either wholly owned or formed through a joint ventures with local partners. So these subsidiaries will take the responsibility of setting up a franchise operations within their specific area and helping to ensure a better quality control and oversight within their area. So Jollibee, KFC are also great examples of companies that have used franchising as a strategy to expand their business strategy.
So hello everyone, my name is Roslyn Aharo and I will be the last reporter who will continue to discuss the following topics. The first topic will be joint venture. So joint ventures are partnerships between two or more companies. They are a popular way to enter a new market because they allow you to share the risks and benefits with the local partner. So there are also advantages and disadvantages of joint ventures. First is local market knowledge. So your partner will know the local culture, laws, and business practices which can help you avoid mistakes. Second is shared costs and risks. Entering a new market can be expensive and risky. A joint venture allows you to share these costs and risks with your partner. And political considerations. In some countries, it may be easier to do business if you have a local partner. So let's move on disadvantages of joint ventures. First is risk of technology transfer. Your partner may gain access to your trade secrets. And second is lack of control. You won't have as much control over the business as you would if you owned it yourself. And autonomy challenges is it can be difficult to coordinate your joint venture with your other businesses. So this slide also includes some examples of joint ventures. For instance, Xerox partnered with Fuji to enter the Japanese market and Boeing partnered with Mitsubishi to build the 787 jet. The next topic will be wholly owned subsidiaries. A wholly owned subsidiaries is like a branch office of a company established in a foreign country. It's a separate legal entity from the parent company, but the parent company has complete control over its decision making. This control is achieved by appointing the board of directors and management team of the subsidiary. Wholly owned subsidiaries offer several advantages. They allow companies to keep their confidential technology secret since they have full control over the subsidiaries' operations. Additionally, the parent company can make strategic decisions for all its subsidiaries around the world, enabling a more coordinated global approach. And finally, a wholly owned subsidiary facilitates efficient operations by allowing for centralized decision-making on production, pricing, and other business matters. Wholly owned subsidiaries also come with some drawbacks. Setting up and running a subsidiary can be expensive compared to other options like joint ventures or licensing. Additionally, acquiring an existing company in the host country to serve as a subsidiary can be challenging due to cultural differences. And finally, there's a risk of nationalization, where the government of the host country takes over ownership of the subsidiary. Choosing an entry strategy. Choosing the right way to enter a new market is crucial for a company's success. It will also explore the concept of entry strategy selection and how it is influenced by a company's distinctive competencies. It also discusses the pressure for cost reduction and how they impact entry mode decisions. So, choosing an entry strategy based on distinctive competencies is the type of entry strategy a company chooses depends heavily on its area of expertise. Companies that excel in technological innovation often prefer wholly owned subsidiaries to safeguard their trade secrets. On the other hand, service companies with strong management expertise might leverage franchising or wholly owned subsidiaries to maintain brand control and service quality. Additionally, joint ventures with local partners can be a good option for companies seeking political acceptance and local market insights. For the pressure of cost reduction is the need to control costs can also influence entry strategy selection. Companies aiming to reduce expenses might choose exporting or establishing wholly owned subsidiaries. Exporting allows them to manufacture in locations with lower production costs and then sell those productions globally. Wholly owned subsidiaries, on the other hand, provide more control over the entire value chain, potentially leading to cost efficiencies through centralized decision-making on production, marketing, and profit allocation across different markets. So, McDonald's and Hilton's worldwide serves as a great example of a company that has successfully leveraged its strength to expand internationally. By combining franchising with wholly owned subsidiaries, they've been able to maintain control over their brand identity while adapting to local status and preferences. This expertise of local franchises while ensuring consistent quality and brand recognition for customers worldwide. Next is Global Strategic Alliance. A global strategic alliance is a cooperative agreement between companies from different countries that are actual or potential competitors. These alliances can range from formal joint ventures where two or more companies have an equity stake to short-term contractual agreements where companies may agree to cooperate on a specific project. So let's move on global strategic alliance advantages. Companies enter into strategic alliances to achieve a number of goals. Alliances can help companies enter foreign markets by providing them with a local market or partner who understands the business environment and has connections. They can also help businesses or companies share the cost and risk of developing new products or processes. Additionally, alliances can also firms to combine their complementary skills and assets to create a more competitive offering. And finally, alliances can be used to establish technological standards for an industry. So, this is an example of how a strategic alliance can help a company enter a new market. Warner Brothers was able to avoid the complex approval process for foreign films and to distribute any films it produces by entering into joint venture with two Chinese partners. The joint venture will also be able to produce films for Chinese TV, something that foreign firms are not allowed to do. So this slide tackles the disadvantages of global strategic alliance. So there are also some potential disadvantages for strategic alliances. One disadvantage is that they can give a competitors a low-cost route to new technology and markets. For example, a company that forms an alliance with a competitor may be giving that competitor access to its technology and expertise. Another disadvantage is that one firm may benefit more than the other from the alliance. This can happen if one firm is in a much stronger bargaining position than the other. So the next topic will be making alliance work. So in today's business world, strategic alliances are a common way for companies to achieve their goals. However, the failure rate for these alliances is quite high. This presentation will discuss the three main factors that contribute to the success of a strategic alliances: partner selection, alliance structure, and alliance management. So the first step to forming a successful strategic alliance is selecting the right partner. A good partner should complement your company's strengths and weaknesses and be committed to the long-term success of the alliance. When selecting a partner, it is important to consider their capabilities, vision, and reputation. So once a partner has been selected, the next step is to develop an alliance structure that minimizes risk. This can be done by making it difficult to transfer sensitive technology, including contractual safeguards in the alliance agreement, and agreeing to exchange skills and technologies. Additionally, extracting a credible commitment from the partner can help to ensure their long-term commitment to the alliance. And the final step to forming a successful strategic alliance is managing the alliance effectively. This involves building trust between the partners and learning from each other. So to build trust, it is important to develop relationships between managers, foster open communication, and resolve conflicts constructively. By following these tips, companies can increase their chances of forming a successful strategic alliance. And that's all. Thank you.